Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK journey video. In this video I want to go over some teams you can try in the Lone Gaze Dream Realm boss to maximize your score. The first thing I want to talk about is a team which I use to get currently rank 2 around 34 billion damage. And I don't know what team Splash was running, who is the top ranker of our server, and also in the district there is another person, Swoker, who got a very high score compared to all of the rest of us. And I'm not sure what they're running. I'm imagining they're probably running Freesto in the team in order to get that much damage. And I don't have Freesto, so I'm not going to be covering like team comps involving him. But 34 billion damage for us is really a good score, but I use Scarlita for that. And I want to see whether it's possible without using Scarlita and just double damage dealer if you can get close to this amount of damage, but for some reason Scarlita does really well in this boss fight. Normally Merrily would be out damaging Scarlita in most bosses, but that isn't exactly the case here. So let's go ahead and jump into the teams. As you can see, a lot of people are going to be getting around 30 or even 29 billion damage in this boss, so if we're able to get even above that, it's still going to be a very competitive team. And the team I used to maximize my damage was using Scarlita, but it wasn't even using Rainier. Because for this boss, you need to protect your team. We've talked about this before, but his passive is that he will gain a stat boost of 20% physical and magical defense, as well as 20 haste each time he kills one of your teammates. And it basically will snowball him out of control. After he gets one of these stacks, your damage is basically heavily reduced, and he has the haste that he's going to be killing more people on your team. So you don't want anyone to die, and for that you need to have protection. And the boss is going to specifically target, a lot of his damage is going to be focused on the backmost hero you have in the team. And so you want to have, like, for example here, OD is fine to be backmost, he's your key damage dealer, but if you can protect him with Smoky Heals, Thorn Soul Pact, and Coco shields and heals, or shields and damage staggering because of her Mythic Plus, then this is going to work for you. If, for example, we get rid of Coco, which is what I did for a while and did some testing, it is going to be much riskier. And eventually, your heroes are going to die towards the end of the fight, and so it just isn't a good option. And that's why I decided to go for a double damage dealer team with Coco for protection, and just forget about the Rainier, because we still have Thorin here to increase the damage the boss receives by 17%, and Thorin's doing 2 roles here. So I think Thorin is better than Rainier because you need that protection on your backmost hero in order so that they don't get nuked by the boss's attacks. And so you will need Thorin at Mythic Plus to really be as effective as he can be in the Lone Gaze boss. So I know many people do not have Scarlita, so we're not going to be testing Scarlita, of course. And I want to try this team first. And if we're going to go for a team with an arrangement like this, we're going to position like this, because we want OD to be taking the aggro, because he's going to be soul pacted and protected. We don't want Merrily to be taking damage at all, because sometimes what can happen if you have a position like this, Merrily will jump around attacking the boss, kiting, and then if she's on one of these tiles which are behind OD, she's going to be prioritized by the boss's attack, and she's just going to die. It would be different, of course, if you had a position like this, and then you could put OD up in the front line. But then if there is some weird positioning where Merrily jumps forward, one of your backline heroes is going to be nuked. So I think this is just the more consistent positioning, and we're going to try a team like this. Evocation Spell, I had the best success with this because this gives you survivability, which you really need for the Lone Gaze boss, for the shielding and the life drain. It also gives you damage from attack and crit, and even attack buff. So let's go ahead and try this team and see how it does. Okay, but Lone Gaze and even to some extent the Alpha Bear have been really interesting bosses, because Coco has been a key part of, in my opinion, the top level teams for both top damage scores, because without Coco, your team dies prematurely when you're running multiple damage dealers. And so even though we don't have any space for the Rainier, I still think this team is better, and also you will consistently do well and get a good damage score if you're not running Coco. Okay, so Merrily just jumped back behind OD here, and this is a spot that she can be targeted, but then she runs up. So because of OD's positioning, it will almost always be the fact that the boss will be targeting OD. Merrily would just have to jump literally into the back 2 tiles behind OD, which she's not going to be going there that much. And yeah, Odie's taking all of the damage. Thorn is soul pacting and protecting. We have the evocation spells, smoky heals, Coco shields, all for protection. So Coco at Mythic Plus is really important. There, Odie went down because I think Thorn's third life just came up. Oh, Odie barely died from the nuke of the final boss's attack, so that is going to cut our damage down quite a lot. Because Odie is going to be your main damage source, we're going to take a look at the damage chart. But in this boss, and this is I guess why Scarlita does well, is that Marilee doesn't do that much damage. She survives throughout the entire fight. She was buffed up with Smokey the whole time. She's dealing true damage, but still only 7.5 billion damage. Like, just a bit more than Thorn and Smokey. So that's kind of the issue. And like, that's why even sometimes people run a single damage dealer team comp with Rainier. And that is a good option if you have Rainier at Mythic Plus, and that's how I got like 30 or a bit over 30 billion damage. Like replacing Marilee for Rainier and just go for all or nothing on Odie's damage, Smokey's damage, and even Thorn's damage, which would all be amplified. So unfortunately, it looks like Marilee is not really a great option in this boss, and Corrin kind of suffers from the same issues because Corrin is a true damage dealer. He doesn't get off that much damage in this fight for some reason. Scarlita for some reason does more than both of them, which normally is not the case in the endless modes of Dream Run bosses. So I don't fully understand why it is like that. So what were some other ideas of teams that I wanted to try? I guess it could be Shakir, and some people would consider this to then be the next best option. If you don't have Rainier at Mythic Plus, maybe this is the best option for you to be running. If we're gonna go for this, we can go ahead and position like this. We do not need, because Odie is still gonna be the most backline hero, and so he's gonna be taking all of the aggro from the boss. It also seems that when you're running to double damage, you're like Marilee and Odie, the boss somehow deals more damage to your backline carries, because even when I was running the Scarlita, I don't think Odie ever was dying towards the end. But with Marilee, Odie died with 10 seconds left on the clock, as we saw. And either way, even if Odie survived the entire 10 seconds, it seemed like we were only going to hit around 30 billion damage. I want to try Lucius as well. Yeah, I want to try Lucius instead of the Shakir and see if that can be better, because if we're going for all around, centered around Odie as your damage source, if we can buff him up in as many ways possible, like with the Lucius attack and haste buff, then it might be better for us. The reason Shakir is good is he will give survivability to Thorn in the front, also attack buff to Thorn, which increases Thorn's damage a bit. Also, Shakir will give survivability to your entire team if he is near your team in his wolf form. There we go. So Odie took that final boss's attack, which he was unable to take when Marilee was in the team. And with this, we're going to get almost 30 billion damage, but still, honestly, I don't think that is too impressive. A lot of damage from the Thorn because of the Shakir's shielding. Odie dealing almost 9 billion damage. Yeah, this is a pretty strange boss. I think Rainier does really well in this boss because it seems like damage reduction is the main way you're dealing damage, because it increases then Smokey's, Thorn's, and Odie's damage. And like, Odie isn't out damaging. Even in that fight, Thorn did more damage than Odie. So you just want to increase your damage from all sources mainly. Okay, let's try Lucius and see if this can work well for us. We can position like this and see. But yeah, I mean, really Thorn Mythic Plus Soul Pacting protecting the Odie is important. I don't, in my opinion, I would not recommend replacing Thorn with anything. Maybe Freyasto if you had that, but other than that, I don't think so. And then the other options are, again, pretty important to be running. I think Smokey and Coco, Smokey is definitely necessary. Odie, I think, is the best damage dealer to be running in this boss fight. He out-damaged Marilee. And it's also because when the boss becomes invisible and untargetable here, he still takes the poison damage. It keeps ticking. And Marilee can only attack when the boss is actually targetable again. So she has some like downtime of her damage output. With Lucius here, we're really safe, but it looks like the damage is not going to be as high as the other teams that we tried. Again, Odie is going to be able to survive, which is good, but not enough damage, 28 billion, so this is quite a bit lower than Shakir in the team. So, should we try... So yeah, Odie contributed much more damage in that fight, but still our total damage was not too high. Okay, 2 attempts left. I want to try... Who else could it be? I was tempted to try Cassidy or something like that, but I just don't know if Cassidy is gonna be... Okay, let's try it. Just for fun, I'm gonna try Cassidy. I don't know if she'll be effective here. The reason I'm doing this is because it will increase the damage from, like, on the normal attacks of our Coco, Cassidy, herself, OD, and Thorin, who all do normal attacks. And also, it will increase the damage dealt by OD because Cassidy is running Tide. When she's Supreme Plus, is going to reduce the magic defense like you saw right there of the boss. And so OD can get off maybe a little bit more damage. And I don't think Cassidy will have any trouble surviving because she will not be targeted by the main focus of the boss's attacks. Even if she is up in the front line, I don't think the boss will be able to take her down because of that. And if you're running a magic damage dealer team comp, Cassidy is kind of a way to upgrade that because of reducing the magical defense of the boss. And also empowering your normal attacks with magical damage. But so far, it looks like we're not really on track to beat our score. 23 billion? Okay, we're getting close. We need Odie to definitely survive until the end if we want any chance of beating the 30 billion. But the 30 billion with Shakir, or almost 30 billion with Shakir, is probably going to be the best without Rainier. Yeah, so Lucius was even better than Cassidy. So that means, again, Cassidy is not going to be a priority for you to be building up. She's good in the battle drills, but that's pretty much it, and that's why in our tier list we did put her in the B rank. Okay, so basically we've come up that all of these options are not really too good, and you can kind of trust me on the Corrin option. Corrin is going to be lower damage than Merrily, and I think honestly maybe your best success will be keep trying this team that we tested, something like this, or a reposition like this, and you will be able to, if everyone survives and Odie can survive until the end of the fight, this would probably be the highest potential damage if you don't have Shakir at Mythic Plus or plus 10 exclusive equipment. If you do have a Shakir built up, maybe even plus 10 exclusive equipment, you can run him instead of the Merrily, and then that probably will be the best team that you can run. But if you have Rainier at Mythic Plus, then this is going to be the team you want to run. And here we have basically Thorin protecting the Rainier, and this is just a single damage dealer support team. You can run the double damage dealer team, but it's very risky. Like, if you replace Coco for another damage dealer, I think it's too risky for me. And you could replace Rainier for another damage dealer like Scarlita and Odie, and that's how I got my maximum score. But this is a really safe way of getting to 30 plus billion damage, and it doesn't require Scarlita. So let's see how much damage you can get with this team. We're aiming for, like, of course, over 30, and ideally like 31. Would put us into rank 3 for the server. And I think 31 billion damage on Lone Gaze is very respectable, and it's a competitive score. But up to maybe 29.5 or 30 billion is possible if you run the no Rainier team, and I would recommend probably OD and Merrily, Thorin, Smokey, and Coco, because you need Coco for that protection, and so it's worth it. And you also have the 3 factional bonus of the Maulers. Yeah, so the damage is much higher with Rainier, of course, because he increases damage from all sources, Smokey, Thorin, and OD, of course. And you have the protection from Coco, no real risk of dying, and you cannot let anyone die, as we talked about at the beginning of this video. That's the really most important thing, really, with this boss. Okay, over 29 billion damage. Can we hit 31? Rainier is still alive. Awesome. Okay, we're on track to be hitting probably over 31 billion damage, which is really good. Okay, just about 31 billion damage. So this is what you're aiming at with the Rainier at Mythic Plus, and we can check the damage contribution. So much damage by Odie, and it was because of the Rainier and Thorn double debuffs. We tried Cassidy, that was not working. Lucius is better than Cassidy. Shakir, if he's fully built up, plus 10 exclusive equipment, he's better than Lucius. Otherwise, he might be pretty similar to Lucius. But I think really, like, I would try with RNG, Thorin, and the double Merrily OD, and Smokey and Coco. Keep trying that with the evocation spell, and I think with good RNG you will be able to survive with everyone until the end of the fight and maybe get your maximum damage. Or you can just try the team with Lucius instead of Merrily, which is pretty safe, but it was only 28 billion damage, which is not too great. Also, something to keep in mind that if you are at an earlier stage and not at the endless mode yet, survivability will be an issue, so definitely you will not want to be running Rainier or anything like that. I mean, maybe in the early floors you can if you have Rainier at Mythic Plus, but you can also replace like the Rainier for another like Lucius. Because I think with Lucius, Coco, Smokey, Thorin, OD, you're pretty much not going to die. And it overall was an effective team. It got 28 billion damage, which is not so far behind the other teams that we tried. So with that 31 billion damage, it would put us rank 3 in the server, and in the district it would put us at rank 11 or 12. And with the 29.5 billion, I think is what we got, or let's say even 29 billion, yeah, that would put us down to rank 8, which is still not too bad, and in district, pretty high as well. Okay guys, we just got an update from Svoker, who is the rank 2 of our district, getting over 37 billion damage. The team he was running is similar to the team I used to get maximum damage, actually really similar. It was Smokey in the frontline position, Freyesto on the two lanes behind it. Let me actually show you in a different like AFK stage map, for example. So yeah, so he was running the Smokey up in the front, and then Freyesto in these two slots. So like for example where Granny is, and then he was running Odie, Scarlita, and Coco. And I think the Odie was in this position, and the Freyesto were in these two slots, and something like this. And I think it was the evocation spell for survivability, which makes sense. So there's the team he was running. So I guess Freyesto again is going to be the way to maximize your damage in the lone gaze boss, making Freyesto even more important as a Celestial Hypergene hero, because without him, you can't compete for the top scores. Because I have tried almost the same exact team, but we ran Thorn instead. Like this was the team that I ran, basically almost exactly the same formation. But we were only able to get 34 billion damage. But it is the case that Rainier Mythic Plus was not even used in his team. And in my maximum damage team, I also didn't use Rainier at Mythic Plus because the Coco for the survival is more important and protecting your team. And Scarlita for some reason does really well in this boss and gets off a lot of damage. But Freyesto again is going to be an MVP. Wow, so this is tough because I don't have like enough resources right now to build Freyesto, and I was kind of stockpiling like guild coins, stargazing tickets for future Celestial Hypergenes, which are really overpowered, and then we try to get them to Mythic Plus. But Freyesto to Mythic Plus seems like he may be a long-term investment, which is going to benefit you because you want to maintain your high rank in the Dream Realm, and he does allow you to get a higher score. And of course his AFK stage pushing is crazy. So he's a very meta hero. But anyway, I'm assuming Splash was using a similar team. Splash just has higher ascension on all of his heroes, so probably he might have even been using the same team. But again, that is going to be a good option if you have Freyesto in these two slots. Otherwise, you can run the same thing with Thorin. If you don't have Scarlita, like I mentioned, I think if you have Rainier at Mythic Plus, probably best to go for this comp, which we did the testing of. If you don't have Rainier at Mythic Plus, then you can just experiment with the options we mentioned, which are like Lucius, Merrily. But if I had to come up, like honestly, like just by testing over and over and over again, if you get good RNG, I think this team would be the maximum form of damage, because you have then two key damages, Merrily and Odie. And if you're running anything else, it's kind of like it keeps you alive and protects you, but there's no RNG really involved. You're going to survive until the end. But Lucius is a really good option, and especially on the earlier floors when you're having so much trouble surviving, which is what happens earlier, then this is good. But Thorin Mythic Plus for the Soul Pact and Smokey Mythic Plus for the damage, it's really important. Anyway guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was helpful. And that is going to be it for this video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe because we upload daily AFK journey videos on the channel, as well as updates with the latest information. But that is going to be it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. And until the next one, everyone, peace out for now. And thank you for watching. I will hopefully see you in the next video.